What is up, guys? Rick Hackus here, and today we are discussing the Cryptarch in Destiny and why he needs to be made great again. Now, the Cryptarch is just such a huge part of Destiny. He is so associated with the game, both in the positive, like when he gave you your first exotic out of a legendary engram, and the negative, like when he gave you blues out of your other 100 legendary engrams. But either way, he is just so strongly a part of Destiny, and that's why it's kind of sad to see him so heavily fallen from grace, become so essentially useless within the current state of the game. Now, before we even talk about why I think the Cryptarch just doesn't have a place within the endgame right now, and some suggestions for how to improve him, we need to talk about why does this matter? Like, why are we even talking about the Cryptarch right now? And I know some of you are going to be watching this video saying, well, so what? The Cryptarch doesn't matter, I've got a lot of other things to do in Destiny. But those other things are why the Cryptarch matters. Guys, the Cryptarch matters, and the Cryptarch not being a good source of loot and not being really a desirable NPC that you want to level up matters because of the Vanguard Quartermaster. Now, why does that make any sense? What is the connection there? Well, the Vanguard Quartermaster, before the April update, is basically how the Cryptarch is now. Like, no one really cares about the Cryptarch rank. If you level up the Cryptarch, who gives a damn? You don't get very good loot. And that was basically the Vanguard Quartermaster. No one really cared that much unless you're really going for one or two pieces of desirable loot. But other than that, you really weren't that psyched to level up your Vanguard Quartermaster. I know myself, I would just go through multiple levels of Vanguard and never collect the reward because I just didn't care. But after the April update, Bungie decided to address this. And guess what? Everything has changed. Everything has changed for the better by injecting the loot table of the Vanguard Quartermaster with desirable loot like the LDR, like the Badger CCL. Now, suddenly, grinding Vanguard is one of the most common things people do in Destiny. It has completely changed the landscape of the game. I am playing so many more strikes. I see so many more people playing so many more strikes, all because the Vanguard Quartermaster was made great again. We took an NPC, we took a faction essentially, that wasn't desirable, whose loot table we didn't care about, and suddenly Bungie said, you know what? We're going to care about this guy. We're going to make him offer desirable loot that players are going to want to go after, and it has substantially improved the game. The same thing can be somewhat said about the Crucible Quartermaster as well. So, we have, evidence right there of how much the game can improve by improving some of these factions' loot, by improving their loot table, by making them more desirable, and by having activities in the game associated with that. So, right there, that is kind of the proof in the pudding, so to speak, of why we should care about the Cryptarch, why we should be improving the Cryptarch's loot table as well. Now again, the Cryptarch right now really isn't offering any sort of desirable loot, both in terms of the actual quality of the items and their light levels. Now the light level side of this argument does make sense against what I'm saying. I know one of the main arguments against what I'm saying is that, well, if the Cryptarch offered higher light levels of gear decrypted up to 335, for example, it would be way too easy to level up. And that totally makes sense. Everyone would be 335 if the Cryptarch was to offer decryption up to 335 when the April update came out. And again, I totally understand that argument, and it totally makes sense. It makes a lot more sense, though, a month ago, or in fact 2 months ago now, when the April update actually came out. Because if we're realistically looking at any change to the Cryptarch, it's going to be at the date this video releases or further along. So most people who are playing Destiny right now are in the high 300s, like close to 330 at least, and so the argument that the Cryptarch will help people level up so quickly really doesn't hold a lot of water anymore, really isn't that substantial of an argument, because a lot of people have already found ways to level up. There is a smaller portion of the community who is still trying to level up, and frankly, considering how easy the challenge of Elders is, the Cryptarch helping you level up really won't be that big of a deal, I feel, and again, especially since it's been quite a while since the April update. And although I wanted to address that argument, it shouldn't even really be an issue because I don't want to just flip a switch and have the Cryptarch suddenly decrypt stuff up to 335. I think there should be initiated a point to where the Cryptarch switches over. If the Cryptarch was updated, I would like him to still be decrypting items of pretty much around the same light level as he is right now, until your Guardian reaches, let's say, 330 or 333 light, or just some arbitrary high light number, and then once your Guardian reaches that point, if you are decrypting stuff at the Cryptarch and you are 333, let's say, you're going to start getting higher light level gear, because it is ridiculous when you're at the Cryptarch and you're 333, you're 334, you're 335, and he's constantly giving you light levels under 300. Like, what is the point of that? That gear is just going to be so much more useless than what I am looking for. You might even have to make it so that the Cryptarch only gives you gear that is a light level of what you currently are or less and never more. That's fine, but I'm just sick of getting light levels of gear from the Cryptarch 30 light or less below what I even care about, and that is really not helping the Cryptarch be a substantial source from loot. Again, look at the Vanguard Quartermaster. He is giving light levels all the way up to 330, which is a lot more substantial. But frankly, light level is only one part of the problem, and I don't even think it's the biggest part, especially since exotic engrams, which are kind of their own thing, they decrypt up to essentially the light level you are and higher, so they will help you level up. But the main loot being offered by the Cryptarch is just not substantial. 99% of the time you are just decoding blues, which are completely useless right now. Before the Taken King, you actually did have some blue weapons that could compete with purples. They just had incredible stats that they spawned with. I'll give you guys a great example. I mean, I even did a video way back when, but there was a pulse rifle, the A.93, I don't remember the exact name, but there was a pulse rifle that had the highest naturally spawning stability in the entire game, but it was a blue, and you could actually go and get that blue and actually take it into the Crucible and do some work with it because it just had incredible base stats. For whatever reason, after the Taken King, they took all of those out of the loot table. The blues now just don't have naturally incredible spawning stats, and they're pretty much useless because of it. So the vast majority of the time you're decrypting blues, which would be fine if you were actually working towards something, but unfortunately, when you actually level up the Cryptarch, you almost never get legendary engrams anymore. You just don't. So there used to be a time where you were almost guaranteed a legendary engram when you leveled up the Cryptarch, but that's no longer the case. You just almost never get legendaries from leveling up the Cryptarch. So you're doing all this work, you're decrypting all of these blues, which are all useless, to get to an end goal of leveling up the Cryptarch, which just gives you more blues. So it's just like a useless train of uselessness, and that very rarely ever gets fulfilled. Every once in a while, a blue will turn into a legendary, or you'll get some legendary engrams, but those decrypt in such a low light level that you're usually not interested, and on top of that, the Cryptarch is kind of at the mercy of the Destiny loot system, which right now is pretty stale. You're decrypting stuff over and over and over again, which is constantly similar to the stuff you already have, because everything fits into the same damage archetypes. I'm sorry if I sound like a broken record at this point, but it's true. If there's only 3 damages an auto rifle can ever be, and you've been playing the game for over a year now, 18 months, you probably have the best versions of those 3 damages. So you're constantly getting worse loot. Only a few of the perks in the entire game are useful, so you're only looking for very specific, like, god rolls when you're looking for loot, and 99% of the time you're not going to get them, so you're just constantly getting rid of 99.9% of the loot you actually get from the Cryptarch, which is just sad. Now, what can be done to fix this? Well, of course we could overhaul and improve the entire loot system, but that's unrealistic to ask for, especially if we'd like to see an update to the Cryptarch before the Rise of Iron, which would be preferable. One of the things that you could easily do is do the exact same thing you did to the Vanguard Quartermaster and to the Crucible Quartermaster, which is add in some of the old desirable loot in the game. How about the Matador shotgun? How about the Hopscotch Pilgrim? There's still a couple of old weapons in the game that are really desirable, like LDR quality of loot, that haven't been added in any sort of way back into the game. Like, you cannot get them at all right now in Destiny. So why not add those into the Cryptarch loot table? Now, I would like to see that implemented, and I think it would definitely make the Cryptarch more desirable. If the Cryptarch was actually offering the Hopscotch Pilgrim, the Matador shotgun, there would be a lot more people going out and trying to decrypt all of their engrams, and just kind of paying more attention and being more invested in the Cryptarch, and that would basically achieve what I'm trying to achieve here. But something else that I think it's a really good idea, and I think that it would kind of make the Cryptarch unique, just everyone offering these old weapons, kind of, you lose themselves in the fray. They don't really have a huge identity, but something that could really help the Cryptarch's identity, make the Cryptarch unique, and also make it very desirable. And guys, if you like this idea, I would encourage you to also drop a like on the video. If you want to see this stuff implemented, it's up to you guys to help spread the word. But something that I think would really increase the player investment in the Cryptarch while keeping him a little bit unique is reroll tokens. Have it so that every time you level up the Cryptarch, your player is awarded with 1 to 2 reroll tokens. Now, what these are consumable items that you can use to completely reroll the perks of a gun. How useful would that be if you get a Hawksaw pulse rifle and it's a trash roll, like you don't want, it has underdog and underdog again, and you have nothing you want on it? Well, use your reroll token, completely reroll it, and get another crack at it. It would essentially be like getting 2 Hopscotch Pilgrims, 2 LDRs, 2 Badger CCLs. Anytime you get a desirable piece of loot with a bad roll, you always wish you could reroll it. Well, why not do it with reroll tokens? Now, of course, there was a time where the gunsmith would let you reroll guns all you wanted, and this led to a little bit of imbalance because everyone was using the god rolls on everything. But with reroll tokens, that is a lot more limited. You have to level up the Cryptarch entirely just to get 1 to 2 reroll tokens, so it wouldn't be as insane as letting you just do it constantly with the gunsmith, but it would still give people an opportunity to get a better roll on their guns. Honestly, I think that would be a really good idea. It would make the Cryptarch a lot more useful, a lot more desirable, and have a lot more of a place in the endgame. You would actually care about your Cryptarch rank. You would care about leveling up the Cryptarch. And frankly, reroll tokens are something Destiny could use right now. The drop rates for some things like the Vanguard Quartermaster are terrible. I just get boots and helmets non-stop from that asshole, and I finally get an LDR, and it's a trash roll. Well, let me use some reroll tokens and actually be able to have another chance at this gun because the drop rate is so bloody low. I finally get one, and it's a trash roll. Let's eliminate that BS from the game. Have reroll tokens. Have a very limited way to give players a chance to have a second chance at rolling their guns. So, in summary, the Cryptarch right now is kind of useless. Why should we care? Well, the Vanguard Quartermaster was useless, and now that he's not, he's really changed the dynamic of the game. The same thing can be done with the Cryptarch, either by increasing his light level a little bit or having a cutoff, so when you get to a higher light level, he finally starts giving you stuff of a higher light to make it so that you're not deleting absolutely everything from him. We can also improve the loot that he offers, for example, by giving him some of the old desirable loot, like the Hopscotch Pilgrim, and also by giving him re-roll tokens. That would really improve the game while keeping him unique and making him desirable. Any of these things, hopefully all of these things implemented, would greatly improve the Cryptarch, therefore greatly improve the loot system, and therefore greatly improve Destiny. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hashtag make the Cryptarch great again. If you agree with that, help spread the word on this video. Again, I hope you guys enjoy. If you want to see more Destiny content, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. Now, if you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at Rick. That's linked in the description down below, as is my Twitch channel, which you can also follow. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day. Now, I got to play Titanfall 2 recently at EA Play. I was invited out to LA to attend a special Titanfall 2 event where myself and a few other YouTubers were able to play the game for a decent amount of time early. We were also given some exclusive Titanfall 2 multiplayer gameplay, which you can see playing in the background during this video. A lot of it was from the trailer, but there's actually quite a bit of it kind of extended beyond what was in the trailer, and actually featuring some new weapons that weren't seen in the official multiplayer trailer, so that's definitely pretty cool for Titanfall fans. Now let's get started by discussing what new features were added in the Titanfall 2 multiplayer.